What is up, everyone? My name is Joe, and welcome to Film Focused. Today, I'm going to be showing you how I develop color negative film. But before we get into it, I'd like to talk to you guys about the differences and some pros and cons between shooting black and white film and color film. Now, if you're someone who's just getting started shooting and developing film on your own, I'd highly recommend sticking with black and white film at first. The main reasons being the chemicals are much cheaper, the process can be done at room temperature, and it's pretty easy to get good results, and it's pretty difficult to really mess up your roll of film. But even though black and white is easier to get into, it still has its limitations. Every black and white emulsion reacts differently to your developer. So even if you have 3 separate films that are all a 400 speed, they have to be developed separately. They can't be done at the same time. Furthermore, if you have 3 films that are all the same emulsion, but they're exposed differently, you would still have to develop all 3 of those films separately. Because if the film is underexposed, you have to overdevelop. And if it's overexposed, you need to underdevelop it. Now, when it comes to developing color negative film, the entire process is relatively more expensive. A gallon kit will cost you around $70, whereas a black and white kit for a gallon solution would cost you roughly $22. On top of that, the entire process for color negative film needs to be done at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. That temperature does vary depending on which kit you're using, but for the one that I use, it's 102 degrees. This means the chemicals have to be at precisely 102 degrees, and then the film must be kept at that temperature through the entire development process for the negatives to turn out properly. So how would I go about doing that? If you don't want to invest in a heating element, you can achieve this in your sink or in your tub, but it requires you to pretty much have your tap running the entire time you're developing film. So it's not very cost effective or efficient with energy consumption, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend investing in a heating element, and this will cost you between $100 and $130. The one that I use is the Innova Sous Chef Precision Cooker. I picked this up on Amazon about 1.5 years ago for $100, and it was the best purchase I've made in a long time. This has a heating element and a little fan on the inside, or a propeller, that circulates the water. So I can set my chemicals in a big tub that's full of water. I can heat up that water, and the water will then heat up the chemicals and keep it at a precise temperature of 102 degrees through the entire process. Now, there aren't many other commercial grade heating elements like this that you can buy, so I would not hesitate to pick one of these up if you are serious about developing color negative film in your house. Additionally, you can develop all different film brands, speeds, and emulsions at the same time. So you could do a single roll of Ektar 100, another roll of Fuji Pro 400H, and then a roll of Portra 800, all in the same batch at the same time. In order to get started, you're obviously going to need to have your film inside a developing tank. If you don't know how to do this yet, I will link my previous video in the series in the top corner here where I show you how to do that. Once you have your film stored in its developing tank, you need to set your chemicals in a bath to get them up to temperature. I like to set my heating element to 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the bath reaches 106 degrees, it will take about 1 hour to 1.5 hours for the chemicals to reach the desired temperature. Once your chemicals are heated and your film is in the tank, you can get started developing. Just like black and white film, this is as easy as following the directions that come with the kit. C41 kits come with 3 chemicals. You have a developer, you have a Blix, which is a bleach and a fixer, and then a stabilizer. They say that you don't need to use a stabilizer with modern emulsions, but I like to use it just to be safe. You'll start with a 1-minute pre-soak for your film at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Once this is done, you can pour the excess water down the drain and get started developing your film. Your first roll of film will be developed for 3.5 minutes. You will pour the acquired amount of developer into the tank. Once it's in the tank, you can put your developer down and place the film inside of the bath. This bath will ensure that the film and the chemicals stay at 102 degrees through the entire process. Once the 3 minutes is up, you will pour these chemicals back into the original bottle. You always reuse your chemicals and you never dilute them. Once the developer is back in the tank, you can take the Blix and pour 500 milliliters into your developing tank. You will use the Blix for 6.5 minutes. Similarly, you put this back into the bath and let it sit there. For every minute, you agitate the film a few times and that will work just fine. Similar to your fixer for black and white film, once you're done with your Blix agent, your film is no longer sensitive to light. So you can pour the chemicals back into the bottle and then open up the top. Your next step will be washing the film for 3 full minutes. I like to pour out the water that fills up the tank as many times as possible in that 3 minutes to make sure that fresh water is always touching the film. Once your 3 minutes of washing the film is up, you can take your stabilizer and pour it into your tank. This is the only part of the process that is done at room temperature. After 1 minute, you can pour the stabilizer back into the bottle and then hang your film to dry. Just like when you're drying black and white film, you want to squeegee off the extra water that's on your color film before you dry it. So you want to wet your fingers a little bit, grab the end of the film, and then squeegee the whole roll like so. Once you've squeegeed off the extra water, you can clip it onto your hanging clips and hang it to dry. One last thing to remember about developing color negative film is the fact that you're actually weakening your developer every time you reuse it. There is a formula that is given to you on the instructions with the kit that you bought that will tell you how to calculate how much time is necessary to develop the next roll of film. In general, it's usually 8% of the amount of time that took to develop the previous roll. So if I've developed 6 rolls of film, the next time I develop, I would use the chemicals for 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, just like black and white film, your Blix or your fixer, that amount of time doesn't change and you will always use that for 6.5 minutes, even though you are reusing it. So there you have it. That is how I develop color negative film in my house. I will go ahead and link the Arista C41 kit and the Innova precision cooker in the description below. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you guys when I can. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you guys next time.